Hello and welcome to Horror Legend with your hosts,
Legend.
and Chris. Oh my god. We're back.
We are back.
Welcome back to Horror Legend. I am the horror weenie. I'm scared. Chris.
And I am the horror buff, only a tiny bit scared. Legend.
We have a special episode today. Well, I don't want to give it away, but it is in celebration of a life
Yes.
that we lost recently. And, yeah, go ahead. Take it away.
So, the movie today is Candyman. It was made in 1982. Not to make people feel old, but that was the year I was born.
Me too.
It was directed by Bernard Rose. It's starring Virginia Madsen, Tony Todd, Xander Berkeley, Vanessa Williams, and Cassie Lemons. Now, some people may recognize people like Xander Berkeley. He was actually in The Walking Dead for like a whole season.
Oh.
And Vanessa Williams actually comes back for the remake/sequel they did not too long ago.
Okay.
To play her same character.
Oh. I watched that and I don't remember.
Virginia Madsen, I don't know what it was when I was a kid. I used to mix her up with Gillian Anderson all the time.
So, I gotta know, this is like getting ahead of ourselves, but I do have a note that she is a mashup of Gillian Anderson, maybe a discount Gillian Anderson, and Jodie Foster to me.
Yes, or the mom from A Nightmare on Elm Street.
That
the
too.
Original.
Yeah.
I also put, I don't know if you noticed this, she has, the way she talks, she has a very old Hollywood voice. I put she kind of sounds like Tippi Hedren in The Birds a little bit.
It's true, yeah.
She has this like old Hollywood feel about her in like a modern setting, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, we would like to say rest in peace or rest in power to Tony Todd, who did pass away this year. He, of course, plays Candyman in the movie.
Yeah.
He is a horror icon. I mean, from the remake of Night of the Living Dead to playing who was basically Death in all the Final Destination movies and many others, he was a staple in the horror genre.
See, I know him from Star Trek.
Yes.
Because he is in many episodes of Star Trek.
Yes.
Different, generations of Star Trek.
He was very much an all-around kind of actor, and he was really good at what he did.
Yeah, he is really good. He's probably my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, he took a character that's... Not that their backstory's simple, but the design of the character is pretty simple when it comes to, it's a huge coat and it's a hook for a hand, but he made this character feel...
I'm like, that's enough.
Yeah, he made this character feel ominous and creepy and...
Yeah.
Just like he's following you wherever you are. He's always watching you. Like, he really brought that to life.
In your head.
In your head, yeah.
Before we get into the actual movie, let's answer some questions from YouTube.
Yes. So we do have just 3 questions so far. Again, if anybody has any questions for us, leave them in the comments. YouTube or Spotify. We can either answer small questions on there with you, or we can answer them on the pod.
The big questions.
Big questions. We need the big questions.
The big questions.
We had to answer the big questions. So, first one is, what is your favorite/least favorite genre of horror? Now, that could be slasher, paranormal, found footage, any type of horror.
I'll go first. Mine's simple. My favorite is paranormal. Anything with ghosts, demons, all that kind of stuff. Just because I don't really believe in demons or bad spirits, so it's not really that scary to me. But it's also interesting enough to I just really am into that stuff to begin with. Least favorite is gore porn. I can't do it. I won't. Saw. I don't know. We'll probably watch Saw at some point, but just the first one. I can't deal with Yeah.
I completely understand that, to be honest. For me, my favorite genre of horror, well, I do like slasher movies and things. The movie that got me into horror was The Shining. So I really love psychological horror movies where it really messes with your head. And even some movies in other genres of horror have that aspect to it.
Totally.
which I just think adds more to it if you could put that in there.
Yeah.
As long as if you're messing with somebody's head, I feel like that creates an unknown, and that makes it a little more creepy and a little more in depth.
Well, that was Candyman.
Yeah, Candyman.
Yeah, there you go.
Least favorite, I would have to also say gore porn. The thing is, it's like the Saw movies, they can be fun. Things like that can sometimes be fun if it's over the top.
Yeah.
But there's still an elevated way to do it.
Yeah.
And if you're just doing it for the sake of just having gore and just constant blood, it's not that good for me.
Yeah. For the sake of just making people want to throw up, it just
Yeah.
doesn't work for me.
Because like even the movies like Terrifier, which are very much gory and crazy,
Okay.
they're still like campy fun.
Yeah, it seems like
So
I haven't seen them
it
yet,
like
but-
works.
Yeah.
But yeah, movies like I mean, Saw after a certain point just became torture porn.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
There was still kind of a storyline throughout, but it just really just became torture porn. And I would also have to say most found footage horror movies are not my favorite.
I don't like them either.
There are some that are really well made,
Yeah.
and some that are just like, this was such a cash grab, or this is just like, it feels like you didn't put any effort into this.
You know, I have a really hard time watching a movie we might watch in the future, Blair Witch Project.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't like it. I just don't like it.
And that was like the first one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And we'll get into more of that if we ever end up watching it. The next question we have is, what is the scariest movie you've ever seen?
Ooh, I thought it said sexiest. From here, it looks like... What is the sexiest movie you've ever seen?
What is the sexiest one you've ever seen? Oh, want to get pumped.
The scariest movie I've ever seen. It's not like supposed to be a horribly scary movie, but it really fucked with my head, and that was Event Horizon.
I still have never seen that movie.
That movie really fucked with me. I don't know what it is about that movie, because it's, you know, about, again, like opening the gates to hell through a black hole and things like that. But, you know, and I don't really believe in that. But I mean, then again, there could be another dimension through a black hole that is, you know, really scary. Who knows?
I still need to see that movie, and the only image I ever see from that movie is just Sam Neill's like messed up face in like one scene, and that's the only image I've seen of that movie.
That movie just fucked with my head for some reason. I saw it in the theater, and I think this is why. I was expecting a straight up sci-fi movie, and it ended up being
scary.
And I was not ready for it.
I've heard good things, and I've heard like things about it, but I've always wanted to watch it.
I still love it. Yeah,
I
we'll watch that.
Pretty good. We need to
we'll watch that.
Well, why don't we just do it? For me, because of how many horror movies I watch, it's really hard to scare me now. When I was around 7, it was The Shining, and that movie did freak me out the first time I watched it, because that was my introduction into the genre, pretty much. If I'm going more recent, not in terms of year of movie, but recent viewing, I think the last movie that really freaked me out, other than Hereditary, when I first watched it, was Black Christmas.
Oh, okay.
The original 70s Black Christmas. And it's just because the way they filmed some of the ending scenes is insane. And I loved it.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing we're not watching that anytime soon for the holidays.
Oh, yeah, not at all. Definitely not on my list. What are you talking about? So we also had an inquiry into the movie Carrie, which was our first episode, and it was if they used real pig's blood at the end scene when they pour the bucket of blood on her. The answer is no. Nobody has to worry about any pigs actually getting slaughtered to use their blood. It was a mix of a certain type of syrup and red dye, which they use a lot in movies, like Evil Dead used it a lot, things like that. Okay. It's insanely sticky. Ew. So the fact that Sissy Spacek decided to sleep in her blood-soaked clothing and hair for 3 days for continuity purposes just makes me feel... But yeah, it was not real with pig's blood, so don't have to worry about PETA coming down.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. I use real pig's blood.
I mean... Do you use homemade or store-bought?
Homemade. So, Candyman.
Yes, Candyman. I think we've almost said his name 5 times at this point.
Oh, that's true. I will say the first thing that struck me was the title sequence and the name Dewan Guy. That's a great name. Dewan Guy. Dewan Guy.
Please welcome to the stage, Dewan Guy.
I love that.
That's so good.
That was really off the cuff, but that was like the first thing I noticed.
Speaking of the opening shot, I did have that note because I love that opening shot. The top down of Chicago.
It looks like The Shining, except it's in a city.
Exactly. Don't come for me. I love that top down shot, and they use it a lot through the movie. They also do it over the University of Chicago with that staircase.
Oh, yeah.
But also, along with the opening shot, the music in this movie of that old like pipe organ, is so cool.
I thought that was cool too, because it's like it puts it out of time a little bit, because it just seems like such a 90s movie, but then that music kind of takes you
back
out of that a little bit,
and
which is cool.
I do have a note for a little bit later of a comparison I have to an older horror movie.
Okay.
But one thing I wanted to bring up in that opening shot when they're talking about Candyman and it goes into that like, oh, it's the woman and the boyfriend and they like say it 5 times in the mirror and it's like kind of like a flashback thing, that the guy is actually Ted Raimi, which is Sam Raimi's brother.
I was gonna say that I forgot that he was in this
for like 5 minutes.
Love him,
yeah,
because I loved him in Xena.
Oh,
I mean, come on,
Ted Raimi's crazy.
What is his name in Xena? It's starting with a J. I can't remember. But
it's
anyway,
been so long.
Yeah, it's been a really long time. I forgot he was in it, and then there's a couple other things like that really struck me in the credits because I did not know it was based on a book by Clive Barker for some reason.
Yes, Clive Barker did the book, and I read that the original character is not the way it is in the movie. Like he's got like a full red beard, different colored like skin, all this stuff to be like Candyman.
Okay.
But I think for the movie, and I brought it up that they really turned the movie into a whole like show the socio-economic differences of like these are the projects, this is white peopleville in a situation, which I think worked really well for this story.
Oh, totally.
I don't know if that's fully how he does it in the book or if it's anything like that,
no
but
idea.
apparently the character looked way different in the book, the description.
Huh. Okay.
But yeah, this is based off Clive Barker, and for those who don't know, Clive Barker also did Hellraiser. That was his story. He also directed the movie. Movies like Nightbreed was another one.
Okay. I don't know that. I know the name.
That movie's ridiculous. But yeah, and there was another movie, The Midnight Meat Train, which was actually
sounds sexy.
I know. That's actually his pornography. No, that movie was actually Bradley Cooper's first movie.
Oh.
Or one of his first movies. He played like a photojournalist in it. A lot of people get their start in horror. That's all I'm saying.
That's true. I did not know that Philip Glass did the music either.
Oh,
which
yeah.
makes so much sense. Okay. Just dissonant, weird music. Okay.
And it works so well.
It really did. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so the movie is horror, but it is very much showing those differences of like the projects and gentrification.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And I feel like it brings up that, but it also not only brings up that, but also brings up like sexism too.
It does.
Because it's like her and her friend doing a thesis, and there's that scene in the movie.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Where they're at like a dinner. So they're doing their thesis on urban legends. They find out about Candyman.
Yeah.
And they're at that dinner, and there's that like overly white, stuck-up professor guy who is just like talking down to them because they're both women.
Yeah.
And it's just very gross.
That part just fully reminded me of the last movie, Substance. Like, it just fully reminded me of the
Dennis Quaid's character.
the skeezy men,
yeah.
Which are, like, they seem to be staples in a lot of horror movies.
Yeah.
Because a lot of horror movies are a bit feminist, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the final girl thing in general.
Yeah.
Is very...
Yeah.
Which this one actually doesn't really have that trope in it.
No.
This one kind of went away from that trope.
Yeah, it went away from it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she's still the final girl.
Like, she was there finally, but, like,
Yeah.
Not in the way that you would think.
Exactly. Exactly. I felt like it was kind of a metaphor for like drugs in the inner cities too.
Oh yeah.
And the whole idea of like those drugs being released into the inner cities.
Yeah.
Especially with like the bees. There's like this wall of bees that comes up after the beginning part, and it just sort of like, you know, encroaches on the city, and that kind of really, I don't know, I got that from it. And I do think it's interesting that it is about like race and disparity, but it is from a white perspective, but it is the early 90s, I guess. And,
yeah.
You know, I don't know. Maybe it's a product of that.
Well, and even from a white perspective, they're kind of showing Virginia Madsen's character, Helen, they're kind of showing her as being a little ignorant of what's going on.
Oh, totally.
Like, her friend, who is a person of color,
yeah,
when they're going to these locations, it's like, she's like, no, gangs run these neighborhoods. Like, this is not a safe place to be. And she's like, we're doing this. I don't care.
For a thesis.
For a thesis. And it's like, she's like intelligent person, but comes off very ignorant about that type of stuff. Yeah. Which I feel like is it's an accurate representation of somebody like that.
That is true.
Where it's like, you're with her because she's a very smart character, but then in these circumstances, it's like, she's gonna learn something by being white in these neighborhoods at this time. Like, this is not a safe place. And when they first go there, it's very apparent that she just is like, has no idea.
Oh yeah, totally.
She's just ready
totally
to
clueless.
Go for it. But I love the difference between, because she brings up in the movie that her apartment complex, her condos, were actually projects.
Yeah.
Until they realize, like, oh, there's nothing dividing these people. So then they remodel them into condos and then build Cabrini Green out past the river, past the railroad tracks, because there's a separation. And I love the difference between, like, when she's running down the hallways in her condo, or he shows her condo, it's like white walls, blank, whatever. Yeah. And then it goes to the projects, and it's like dark walls, graffiti everywhere. There's this, I don't know, I feel like they contrasted that very well to show, like, gentrification and
totally.
How things become less, I don't want to say creative, but less, like, colorful.
Yeah.
It's just white.
Colorful.
Less colorful.
I refuse to believe that her apartment was built as a project.
Oh my god!
Did
you see the planter?
You see how big it is? Like, it's in downtown Chicago. That would be a fortune. There's
100%.
No matter, like, you could call it a project, but it would still be like $3,000 a month minimum.
And it's funny because they go into the apartment of this woman who was murdered in the projects, and she's like, "See, I told you, same layout." And I'm like,
"No, it isn't."
And I'm like, "Where?
The fuck it isn't."
Where? Because the bathroom's in the same place?
Yeah, because you have a medicine cabinet?
Because you have a medicine cabinet.
Do you know what I like about the Cabrini Green apartments? Especially the one that she goes in that, you know, has the portal, you know, to Candyman's
behind the medicine cabinet.
It looks so intentionally like a set. Like, it looks so fake.
Yeah.
Which I think kind of is cool because it like has like an otherworldliness to it that you wouldn't get if it looked like an actual apartment, but it just full on looks like a set. It looks so fake.
It does. I love the way they did the graffiti street art stuff in it, and like how they messed it up and made it look all crazy. But the one aspect I love behind the medicine cabinet is Candyman's face on the wall. Yeah. Where that hole in the wall is his mouth, and she's standing in it for a second, and it's like this weird, like, I've got you trapped kind of situation. Yeah. It's just such a cool image.
Oh, totally. I like that she didn't put the cabinet back either. That was in her apartment. Oh, when she was showing her friend that
there's a fake
apartment is like that.
Yeah.
She knocks out the medicine cabinet.
Oh, it never puts that wall back.
She never puts it back up.
Yeah. It's like, luckily that's a fake apartment, otherwise somebody would be complaining about
Inconsiderate. Inconsiderate. Just like she was inconsiderate taking pictures of everyone, like it was a documentary and like it was like a nature documentary. It was terrible.
Oh yeah.
Where she's just taking pictures of people.
I'm sorry, like,
God.
She's taking pictures in the projects and all that stuff, but side note for that.
Yeah.
Tell me why the camera shutter sound was like so satisfying. I don't know why. Every time I heard the click of the camera,
the flash. I could hear the flash bulb making that little whiny noise.
It was like the flash bulb and the camera shutter going off.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was such a satisfying noise to me,
totally,
but I was I love this noise for some reason. And I was like, I really need to take more film pictures. So yeah, Candyman is one of those stories where it's like you have to say his name in the mirror 5 times to get him to appear.
Yeah.
Which, of course, is a way better version of Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
Because that's a tale as old as time. Just kidding. But yeah, I thought, way better version of Bloody Mary, of course. But it's such a cool way to use that trope of having to say somebody's name in the mirror. And, of course, people just mess around with it and be stupid with it, not thinking it's real. And then something happens.
Although I don't understand why he didn't kill white people, considering what happened to him.
Right.
Why didn't he just go after all the white people? Why was he killing black people? I don't get it.
My opinion of that is more like, I think it's because he died in such a hateful way that his spirit is just angry and vengeful.
Yeah, it
so
seemed
it's
like he
no matter who
wanted
it
to-
is, he's just lashing out.
That makes sense. And I think he wanted to, like, kind of keep... Well, he was kind of saying that people were worshipping him in a way. Like, they were kind of, like...
Yeah.
He was keeping his flock, and
Yeah.
all that. Which, I guess that makes a little more sense.
It's kind of like
and
he
fear
himself...
is the best way to do that.
Exactly. He himself knows that he can instill fear in no matter who it is. And
that makes sense.
keep his legacy or belief in him alive if he just does whoever. Goes after whoever.
Because he only started killing white people when he saw someone that looked like his girlfriend. So.
Oh, yeah.
Who, by the way, if you look at the painting at the end of his original girlfriend, looks nothing like her.
She just has the blue eyes.
Nothing at all.
I was actually going to bring up, too, because you brought up the camera thing. I was like, I hate to say it, but if I had my camera and it was an abandoned building... We all over it.
I know. You already do that.
My thing is, like, I don't know what it is. When I have my camera, certain fears just go away. My fear of heights and all this stuff just, like, disappear if I have my camera and I just go for it. So I know, like, oh, yeah, no, I'm in the projects. I'm in a bad neighborhood, but I got my camera. Let's do this.
Well, that's cool.
I don't know why, but yeah, if the building was abandoned, obviously this is a place where people are living. But if it was completely abandoned, I would go in there.
Oh, yeah, totally. She gets, I don't remember what time it is, that she gets to the toilet. Because she talks to that kid. He takes her to that bathroom that's outside. Like it's a separate bathroom area. And then she opens that toilet full of bees. And then she proceeds to stay in there and take pictures. I'm sorry, a toilet full of bees.
It's like toilet full of
run
bees,
away from that,
and there's also shit covering the walls saying something.
Yeah,
I would be gone.
I would not be in there for any more than a millisecond.
And then, of course, some guy claiming to be Candyman comes in and hits her over the head with a hook.
Yeah.
Which is messed up. And
yeah.
This movie really gets a lot more violent than I remembered.
Oh, yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
And that was one of the things was, like, I mean, she like is now in the police station looking for the guy, and she is just like one side of her face is so messed up from getting hit with a hook.
Yeah.
Like
oh yeah.
Over the head and like not even just the swelling, but then after that her eye is like black for a second and then it goes back to normal. But she does bring it up. She actually mentions the double standard where it's like, yeah, 2 people have been killed, a child and that woman, the black woman.
Yeah.
Cops do nothing.
Oh, yeah.
White woman gets attacked in a restroom over there. Cops are all over it.
Yeah.
And it's, like, obviously double standard.
Yeah.
And it's like, she brings it up for a second, but it does still resonate as true.
Oh, yeah, it was very pointed.
Very pointed.
You could definitely... That line was very pointed.
Very pointed. Very brief, but very pointed.
Yeah.
And then... So she first meets Candyman in the parking garage.
That's when the movie takes such a fucking turn.
100%.
In the car park.
100%. I love how they add this like echo to his voice.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And he just looks so ominous. It's like daytime. And he's like in this parking garage with her, but he still feels so creepy.
Yeah.
And Tony Todd plays that up so well. And you know, you get that line, "Be my victim."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the events that come after that, it's like, oh, he's really creating like a victim. Like,
yeah,
it's like the way he does it, like getting her framed for stuff and like trying to mess up her life completely.
Yeah,
so that she wants to be with him.
Exactly.
It's like a weird romance type of situation.
Yeah. That's like what is that, Stockholm Syndrome?
Kind of like Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I wanted to bring up, because I still forgot how violent this movie gets, is when she passes out and then she wakes up in that woman's apartment, Vanessa Williams' apartment, and she's covered in blood.
That was a lot.
I forgot about the dog's head.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there have been plenty of dog deaths in horror movies, and it always sucks.
Yeah.
This one I think is one of the worst. Because it's literally just the dog's head.
Yeah,
and blood everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, I totally forgot about it, and I was just sitting there like, oh, right, oh, God. And then, of course, the baby's missing.
Yeah. And
my only other note about that is, why the hell did you pick up the knife? Leave it on the ground. Leave it on the ground. Put your hands up. You didn't know what you were doing. Why did you pick it up? Why'd you pick up the knife? And now she sees you with the knife in her apartment.
Yeah.
Freaks out even more. Don't pick up the knife.
You know, horror movie logic in general. Yeah.
Like, oh, I see a knife and I'm covered in blood. I should pick this up.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you doing?
I mean, she probably wasn't thinking clearly.
No, obviously you're in shock. You don't know what you're doing. So I guess it kind of makes sense. But still, you're sitting there looking at it being like, why did you pick up the knife?
I feel like then when she gets arrested, etc., it's almost like she starts receiving the treatment that a person of color would receive.
Oh yeah,
where you're guilty until you can prove otherwise. Yeah. I kind of
makes that makes sense with that. She starts experiencing the flip side.
Yeah.
And also at this point, her husband could not give a shit.
No. Like,
does not care about her well-being whatsoever.
No.
He's like completely, you can tell that he's just acting like he gives a shit.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to me. He's just like, your wife just woke up in this woman's apartment, doesn't know what happened, covered in blood, dead dog, all this stuff, is now in like jail at the police station for this. And you go to pick her up and everything, and you're just acting like you care, and she's like having a full trauma mental crisis.
Yeah.
As anybody would in that situation. Yeah. And you could just tell, even when he's being quote unquote caring, that it's just not genuine.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's such an ass the whole movie.
She then gets to go home and take a bath, and this is where the movie becomes boob heavy.
Oh yeah,
I didn't realize there was so much like boob in this movie.
The thing is I like the scene where she is in the police station and the woman's like barking orders at her to lift.
Oh yeah, there's some side boob in that part.
It's like that one I think was okay. I don't know if we needed to see her boobs in the bathtub.
We didn't need the bathtub boobs.
Yeah.
And then there's
the bathtub boobs.
There's more boobs at the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, it's not like we're any sort of like prudes or anything. It's just
it doesn't bother me.
No,
it's
just like whenever it's just nudity for nudity's sake, it's like what's the point?
I mean, unless you're gonna throw in some penis too,
right?
In which case, I'm fine.
Can we make this a little balanced?
Let's balance this out.
Can Lady Justice balance this out a little
bit? Right? Can I see a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then her Bud Light and cigarette before she goes to prison, which is.
Such a man's way to show a woman breaking down.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. Oh, God.
And I love the part where, so now she's back at home. Instead of seeing him in the mirror, when she opens the medicine cabinet, his hand comes through the medicine cabinet.
Oh my God!
Instead, and I was like, this is such a perfect way to read like the whole, because I open the medicine cabinet, I close it, and there's somebody behind me in the mirror.
Exactly, yeah.
But this was such like a twist on that, where it's like, no, his hand comes straight out of the medicine cabinet with the hook, and I was like, That's surprising. Like, that's crazy.
That's the only jump scare that got me again this time.
Because it's unexpected.
Because I have seen this like a couple of times before.
Because like you think when she closes the cabinet, there's going to be somebody behind her. It's going to be a normal thing. But it coming through the medicine cabinet.
It comes through the medicine cabinet.
It's just such a good twist on that trope where it's just like, no, it's actually in front of you. Like, this is what's happening.
I think right before that, she has I have to say this. The projector, she was looking at the projector and saw his image in it. But I'm like, projectors don't work like that, where she enhanced the image.
What are you talking about?
Like
CSI Miami.
It was so funny. I was like, yeah, projectors don't do that.
Enhance.
But okay.
Clear up the image. Enhance.
It is a Minority Report. I don't...
Enhance into the car window. Enhance into the reflection of the car window.
So funny.
Unpixelate it. So yeah, I did bring up here that, Candyman's costume is pretty simple. Mm-hmm. But he makes it so menacing. And I feel like it's because in that costume, he is a tall person, but in that costume, I don't know if it was just me, but it makes him feel like he's like 9 feet tall.
Oh yeah, totally.
The way the coat, how long the coat is and everything, it makes it feel like he's at least 9 foot tall and he just towers over everybody.
Totally. And
it was such a good way to do that. I also felt so bad for her friend.
Oh God, yeah. I don't remember her friend's name.
I can't remember her friend's name. But I felt so bad for her friend getting murdered.
Oh God, yeah.
And like unknowingly, and then when you see her dead on the floor and her skin's like blue and everything, I was just like, holy God. Like, it's so crazy. And I remember I brought up that there was a little bit of a mistake when they bring Helen back to the hospital after the friend is found. And she's now in the psych ward. Mm-hmm. If you notice when she's freaking out, the nurse comes in with a needle to sedate her. If you notice, the nurse totally bends that needle in her shoulder. And it's like, obviously it's a fake needle. Yeah. But it's like, she just like kind of goes for it, but like bends it.
I didn't notice that. I did read it on the trivia. But I did notice that. Plus, they made a couple mistakes in that particular portion too, because later they're showing her when she's on the table, like showing her footage of herself. The doctor is.
Oh yeah.
And in the moment, she gets like some whatever she was saying out, and then like he's under the bed or whatever, and then they come rushing in right then. But in the thing that he's showing her, they don't come in.
It's like, we definitely filmed this later.
Yeah.
Using the security cam.
And would they leave her bloody clothes on from a crime scene when she's in the hospital? Would they like take that off?
You would think they would take it off.
Yeah.
To like put it in evidence or something.
Yeah. I mean, what do I know? I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
A psychiatric doctor, or a practicer of the law. So I don't know.
But this is it's one thing I brought up in our last episode with Thanksgiving was it's a slasher movie, but you still have to have some sort of suspense.
Yeah.
And there's a moment that I really like in this, and it's like, obviously, like, she's seeing this now psychiatrist in the hospital. And you just sit there thinking, like, no matter what she says, he's going to think she's crazy. Yeah. Because that's what they do in those places. They never want to listen to you. It's always, they just think you're crazy, and then they just up your meds. Yeah. Is I like that she's like, fine, you know what? I'll just call him here. Yeah. And then just looks in the mirror and says his name 5 times. Yeah. And you have this moment where nothing happens. Mm. And it builds it up a little bit. And then all of a sudden the doctor gets stabbed in the back and like ripped up with the hook. And you're not expecting it to like fully just happen. No. And then he gets sucked out of the window. So
that's my favorite part of the movie, because that's just kind of like almost comical when he, punches through his chest. But then what's even funnier to me is when he flies out the window backwards.
Which, I mean, we get a little bit of that in the room where he's, like, floating over her and then, like, floats under the bed or whatever. Yeah. But, yeah, when he gets, like, sucked out of the window.
That was hilarious to me.
And it's like, whenever you're watching it, you notice, like, oh, the reason he did the suck out of the window thing is because it's showing her, like, you can escape through the window.
Yeah.
And it's, But yeah, when he gets sucked out of the window, it is a little funny just watching him like him.
And I think it also made it funny because this is when she goes in to see the doctor is the point in the movie where I'm super aware that these are actors acting. And I hate when that happens in a movie.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, it could be, I think it was because of the doctor. His acting was a little off, honestly. It wasn't quite there. So it made me very aware that I was watching a movie at that point.
He could have played it up a little bit. I feel like he was a little too deadpan for it to fit the scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get what you mean. But she does escape the hospital. So we end up finding out too that the baby that was taken earlier in the movie is alive.
Yes.
Just in his lair.
Yeah.
And I love the way his lair looks.
Oh yeah, totally.
He's like sleeping on that stone table.
Yeah.
When she goes to see him. The vibe I get from this movie a lot too, and this brings back the old pipe organ kind of music. Is Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein.
I got like Phantom of the Opera a bit too.
And Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
That's another big one.
Yeah.
Because of the whole love story Phantom of the Opera. And then I got Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein because it was like he was created by these people. And it's like now he's like anger, whatever, and now he's creating the spouse for him in the afterlife kind of situation. So I kind of got those two.
I get that.
Which I thought was really cool that you're kind of making references to like older horror movies subtly. Yeah. Where it's like very Phantom of the Opera, very Frankenstein, very whatever. Like I mean you could even say Dracula if you really wanted to. Yeah. It's just kind of a cool take on that.
My other favorite part is before she goes to his lair, where she goes back home and confronts her. Is it her husband?
It's her husband.
Is her husband and his new girlfriend. I don't know. I just thought that was like...
The new girlfriend is such a little bitch.
I just thought it was great because it like... She starts to act like a villain at that point, which I think is really cool. She like turns into a villain.
She has this like turn in attitude where it's like, I'm done. Like I'm just pissed.
Yeah. And she kind of like is almost getting off on the fact that they're so afraid of her. Yeah. Which I think is kind of cool.
Well, and see, this is where I kind of saw. I think I mentioned it to you. I kind of saw parallels to the newer Invisible Man movie.
Oh yeah.
Because it's a guy. It's like the Invisible Man framing her for shit and making her life hard and tearing her down and ruining her life. Yeah. And that's what kind of Candyman was like ruining her life, getting her framed for murder, all this stuff. To like just completely mess up what she has. Yeah. For him to be the only option. So that it kind of reminded me, I feel like the Invisible Man might have taken a little bit of inspiration from that. Yeah. It just very much felt like that a little bit, which is cool.
Oh no, totally. That's like a very deep primal fear of not being in control.
Of
your life.
And that's the thing is like that's where the psychological aspect of this movie comes in for me is like, yeah, he's a slasher. He comes in, he kills people, but it's like he's also messing with you mentally. Yeah. He's also just tearing you down the whole time, and it's just like you're out of control of your life completely. And that just creates so many unknowns. And it just, that to me, just adds so much to that slasher part of the movie when you add the psychological part in there.
I'm getting towards where she, walks through the thing again into his sanctum.
Oh, yes.
Where her shoes change color. I saw that. They do.
We love continuity errors.
She's wearing different colored shoes throughout.
Just for anybody who knows, we're not saying that a movie's bad because it has tiny continuity errors.
Of course not. I like it more.
It's just fun to point it out.
Hey, my favorite TV show is The Golden Girls, and there is zero continuity to that show. Zero. Like different characters or different actors play completely different characters. Yeah. Some things happen to people in their past. It's never talked of again, or it's completely 180. I love that. Anyway. That baby was crying really loud, and I'm wondering how no one
how did you not hear it?
Could hear that.
You're in the apartment next door. You heard somebody getting murdered.
Yeah.
You can't hear that baby cry?
I know.
That's your child.
Or all the bees crunching in his mouth. Which that noise really bothered me, but
And there's a lot of trivia on the bees, which I
yeah.
But apparently one little piece of trivia for that is across the I think 3 movies they did of Candyman, because Tony Todd plays him in 3 different movies.
Yeah.
That he got stung a total of 26 times across 3 movies.
Yeah, I think I read that, and it was like a 2,000 extra bonus or 1,000 per.
Oh, it was $1,000 per sting.
1,000 per
sting.
sting.
He negotiated $1,000 bonus per sting.
That's what it was.
And Virginia Madsen had an insane. Oh, she was allergic.
Oh,
she was allergic to bees, and they said we'll just have a paramedic on standby just in case. But she was allergic to bees, I think it was.
Yeah.
But these bees were bred specifically for the movie.
Yeah.
So they were they used them in the early stages of their life so that they would not really have developed stingers and things like that to be able to do it. But he still got stung a bunch, and she still had to worry about the fact that she was allergic to bees. So it was a whole thing.
I mean, I would have to have a significant amount of money
to have bees anywhere in my mouth
if I was
crawling around in my mouth,
especially if I was allergic.
Oh my god!
You'd have to give me an enormous amount of money for that.
Film me from the side and use a dummy. What do we do?
Yeah, right.
Or just stick a couple of fake bees to my face.
Exactly. Exactly.
But I mean, they love to do everything practically, which was very good.
Yeah.
Always prefer practical effects.
That's true.
Even if they look fake, they're just better.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get to that. After the bonfire happens. Which the baby was crying in that bonfire too, so loud when people were coming out there.
So loud.
And the people weren't making that much noise except for the sound of
gasoline
going on.
She could hear the baby in the building. In the building outside of Vanessa Williams' apartment, knew that it was in the pile, and nobody else could hear the baby.
Yeah,
I was like, is it just amplified for her because it's her? I don't understand.
I don't know.
But that's where the trope of the final girl thing kind of takes a turn.
Yeah.
And what I liked about that last scene is so they have all the wood there for this bonfire because they do this party thing.
Yeah. Very midsummer. Right?
Very, very midsummer.
Yeah.
But they put Candyman basically lies to Helen after she says, "I'll be with you as long as you keep the baby safe."
Yeah, he lied.
And he put the baby in the bonfire. Area. So she goes and finds the baby in the bonfire, and then he tries to keep her in there with the baby as they're lighting it on fire.
Yeah.
For those worried, the baby's okay.
The baby's okay.
She starts to get burned really badly, but she makes it out with the baby. And
her stunt double makes it out.
Her stunt double makes it out.
In a Party City wig. Crawling out of the fire. that part made me laugh too.
But she ends up handing the baby back to Vanessa Williams. And she dies in the process because of the burns she gets.
Okay, I was wondering, I'm like, how... Because she seemed almost fine.
She seemed to be fine
so
after they put her out.
How did she die?
But I guess because of how badly the burns were, she just ended up dying.
Okay. I mean,
even if it was immediately or if it was in the hospital later. I have no idea.
Okay.
But that's where that final girl trope, it's she was kind of the final girl, but she ends up dying.
Yeah.
But...
question before we move on.
Yes.
So is Candyman supernatural or not? Because he had a body that was burned and they took the hook out of the fire. So
that's the thing is they see Candyman and he's kind of spectral, but then he's also real.
It seems like he's real.
So him dying in the bonfire, I felt was kind of a cleansing fire situation.
Yeah, it's just
But
weird,
there is sequels to these movies.
Because he's real, but yet he's he would be X number 100 of years old, so he's not. So, and he died, but he's, I don't know.
Well, and they kind of bring it up in the newer version.
Okay.
Where, have you seen the newer version?
I have, but I don't remember it. I have definitely seen the new version.
I swear in the newer version they bring it up where it's every generation has their own Candyman.
Oh, yeah. So he might have been a real person.
He might have been real, but...
Sort of.
Because he's still... It's kind of like Michael Myers, where it's this is a real person in a costume, but for some reason he can't die.
Okay. That makes more sense.
I mean, in Halloween they explain it to be like it's because he's the embodiment of evil, like whatever, or something. But and it's the curse. That's the curse of Michael Myers. But this one, it's kind of hard to tell. But the fire he gets stuck in it, he does burn.
Yeah.
Um,
And they take the hook from him, obviously,
Yeah.
because they show up with it at the funeral.
well, and I thought that was a powerful scene where all they show up to her funeral because
Yeah.
it's like Vanessa Williams forgiving her, knowing that she really didn't
Yeah.
do this thing and she saved her child.
Yeah.
Did give a little bit of a white savior complex.
It absolutely. It really did.
But it was still like a nice scene.
Yeah.
To show the husband like, yeah, you're a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
But yeah, when the kid drops the hook into the grave, then we get to one of the last scenes in the movie. And you get the husband now in the bathroom, locked in the bathroom, like crying and like moping, and I'm sitting there watching this while the student that he was hooking up with, this young blonde whatever,
with her transparent shirt,
boobs no bra, boobs out
heavy again.
He was like, "Are you coming out? I'm gonna make dinner." Like boobs out, and she's getting mad at him because he's not coming out of the bathroom for dinner.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking like, "Oh, now you miss your wife?
Right.
Now you're sad about it?
Right.
Like, where the hell was this, you ass? Like, now you're gonna be." Now you're going to grieve over it? Like, are you kidding? And then he ends up saying her name 5 times.
Yeah.
And I love that she did a callback to the line she says when she first goes back to the house, which was like, "What's wrong? Do you see something that scares you or whatever?"
Yeah.
And she's in the bathroom and she says that and then she kills him with the hook.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is a very cheesy ending.
It is.
But it is a little satisfying.
No, it's really satisfying, and like it almost, like I told you this earlier, the day I watched it. It's like a slasher ending.
Oh, 100%.
Because, like there's the girl with her tits out, basically holding a knife. There's blood everywhere. It's almost like a cheesy ending, but I do like it though. It's satisfying.
Yeah. It feels a little disconnected from the rest of it.
It totally
does. It still works.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of a good full circle moment.
Totally.
Of being in that bathroom and being the person that's now in the mirror. And,
yeah.
And
now she is the candy woman.
the candy woman.
The candy person.
Who can make the sun rise?
The next one should be called the candy person.
The candy person.
That movie is a ride, and I am here for it, I think.
Me too. I do have one note of trivia.
Ooh.
for those who are interested.
I'm interested.
So they actually did film at the Caprini Green projects, the real projects in Chicago. Yes. The production team apparently, because it's a area that's ruled by gangs, especially at this point.
They said gays at first. I'm sorry.
Ruled by the gays.
Gangs.
They're ruled by gangs
Gotcha.
at this point. So the production team actually used a lot of those gang members in the movie as extras, and this was to secure the safety of the cast and crew being in that area.
Yeah.
They made a deal with them. Like, well, yeah, we'll put you in the movie, just don't mess with our people. And apparently everything was fine.
No.
Until the very end of the shooting there, where they ended up getting a sniper round shot into their production van as they were leaving.
Oh my god.
Nobody was hurt, but the van did end up getting shot up a little bit while they were leaving. And I think maybe it's because they were like, well, they're leaving now, so they're not making this deal anymore.
It was like one final, like, don't come back.
Yeah, one final don't come back type of situation. But yeah, they had to deal with it. And I've heard of this happening before in other movies in film school where, like, there was a movie they filmed kind of by the Mexico-Arizona border, and it's like, but it was an area that's kind of heavy with the cartels and like other gang things. So like, they bought them lunch and they spent all their money at local businesses, so it helped the economy, so that they would kind of leave them alone while they were filming. So this has been something that's happened before with movie things.
That My Little Pony movie as well. I heard that there was a major issue.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that.
No,
was,
something about being attacked by bronies.
So, I have seen this movie now, I guess, 3 times, maybe 4, don't recall.
It's been a few for me now.
I really do like it. You know what? I'm going to give this 4 hooks out of 5. Yeah.
See, I was going to give it 4.5 honeybees.
I was going to go for bees, too. Let's 4.5 honeybees.
4.5 honeybees.
4 hooks from me.
4 bees and a wasp.
4
I
hook
don't know.
hands.
4 hook hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know in the comments if you just hated it.
Yeah, definitely give us your opinion in the comments too.
Yeah.
Like, we like to hear your opinion of the movie. If there's anything we missed that you want to bring up,
Exactly.
that we can mention in our next episode. And of course, any questions,
Yeah.
whether it's about horror movies or if there's something you want to know about us. Obviously, nothing too personal.
Yeah.
I mean, if you need to know my social security, that's fine.
That's fine.
But yes, we hope you enjoyed this episode.
Make sure to like and subscribe.
Make sure to like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, on Spotify.
Everything.
Instagram.
It's Horror Legend Pod on Instagram. By
And
the way,
Blue Sky. We also have a Blue Sky.
Oh, yeah, Blue Sky too.
You can find us on there. I post the episodes on there too, and occasionally the trivia.
Yeah. So you can see horror movie trivia and porn. On Blue Sky.
On Blue Sky. Horror movie trivia and porn, that's what Blue Sky is known for.
That's what it's for. Well, until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.